When I was a kid, my dad used to tell me, "Son, loyalty is everything." He said it when he tucked me in at night. He said it when he coached my little league team. He said it every time my mom made his coffee just the way he liked it and handed it over with a smile even after working a double shift as a nurse. But when I was 16, he packed up his things and left. No warning, no conversation, just a note on the kitchen table that said, "I need to be happy too." And just like that, everything I thought about loyalty shattered. My mom cried for weeks, not the loud sobbing kind of crying, the quiet kind. The kind where she'd wash dishes and her tears would just fall in silence. She'd wipe them away with the back of her hand like it was nothing. But I saw it, every time. I didn't see my dad again for over a year. He didn't come around for birthdays, holidays, or even my graduation. No calls, not a single text. The man who once said he'd never miss a moment of my life vanished like he had never been part of it. My mom, to her credit, never badmouthed him. Not once. But I could tell it hurt her more than she let on. I found out from a neighbor where he was living. A high-rise apartment across town. With her. Her name was Lisa. She was younger, thinner, blonder. She smiled like she'd never had to work for anything in her life. My dad met her at some corporate networking event. He was her career mentor. That's what he told my mom, right before he stopped coming home. People whispered about it in our neighborhood, about how he'd upgraded his life. New girlfriend, new apartment, new car. It made my skin crawl. I had every intention of never speaking to him again. Until the day he showed up on my doorstep. It was 6 years later. I was 22 and living in a modest apartment downtown. I'd put myself through school working nights and weekends. Mom had moved in with her sister a few towns over. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Peaceful even. And then he knocked. I recognized the knock immediately. It was the same one from my childhood, quick, purposeful, like he owned the place. I opened the door, and there he was. My father, grayer, thinner, and wearing a crumpled blazer like he hadn't slept in it. Or out of it. "Hey, kid," he said, smiling weakly. "You got a minute?" I stared at him. I didn't say a word. I didn't move, just looked at him. This man who had ghosted me for almost a third of my life, standing there like he'd just come back from the grocery store. "I know I have no right to be here," he added. But I didn't know where else to go. The words didn't land like he hoped. I didn't invite him in. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. "What do you want?" I asked. He rubbed his hands together nervously. "Lisa left me." I almost laughed. Not because I found it funny, but because of how pathetically predictable it was. Of course she did. "I've been crashing at a motel, but I'm running out of money," he continued. "I lost the consulting gig last month. Thought I could freelance, but it's been rough." I stared at him, waiting for the rest of the story. Waiting for an apology, maybe. But it never came. Just more details about how his life had fallen apart. He looked at me with eyes that once lectured me about responsibility, now desperate for shelter. I didn't say anything. "I was hoping maybe I could stay here, just until I figure things out," he said. That's when it hit me. This man, my father, the one who said he deserved more, was now standing on my porch asking for a favor. From me, the son he left behind. I didn't answer right away. Because in that moment, all I could think about was my mom, the way she had held us together, the way she had never asked for anything, the way she had suffered quietly. And now the man who abandoned her, who abandoned me, was asking for help. I felt like a test. One I hadn't studied for. One that had no right answer. But I said, "Let me think about it." His shoulders dropped. Fair enough. As he walked away down the steps, I stayed frozen in place. And that was just the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I kept picturing his face, not how he looked on my porch hours ago, but how he used to look when he was still my dad. When he used to take me to batting practice. When he danced. With my mom in the kitchen. When he used to talk about honor and being a man of your word. I wrestled with it all night. And by morning, I did something that surprised even me. I called him. Don't get comfortable, I told him. 1 week, that's it. When he arrived, he looked like someone who had been camping in his car for months. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes sunken. He carried a single duffel bag, like a man who had lost everything. And maybe he had. I pointed to the couch. That's your bed. He nodded. Thank you, son. Don't call me that. He flinched, but didn't argue. The first few days were tense. He tiptoed around the apartment like a stranger in a museum. He made coffee in silence, washed his cup, sat on the couch like he was afraid to breathe too loud. He didn't ask about Mom, didn't ask about me, just existed in the corners of my life like a shadow. On day 3, he finally broke the silence. You, still working at the nonprofit? He asked cautiously. I looked up from my laptop. Yeah, that's good. That's noble. I didn't respond. The truth was, I'd co-founded the nonprofit. We provided financial literacy and housing assistance to single-parent families, inspired entirely by watching my mom struggle after he left. He didn't know that. He didn't deserve to. He cleared his throat. I saw your photo on the website. You've done well for yourself. I shrugged. Someone had to. The silence that followed was heavy. Later that night, I heard him talking in the bathroom. I thought he was on the phone, but when I leaned closer, I realized he was talking to himself, whispering, practicing something. Maybe if I'd waited. She said I was too boring. I thought I was chasing happiness. I froze in the hallway, hand halfway to the light switch. It was the first time I'd seen any cracks in his confident, self-righteous mask. The next morning, he was already up, dressed, and making breakfast, just like he used to. Except this time, he was cooking like someone desperate to prove they still had value. Made eggs, he said, like old times. I'm not hungry, I replied. He sighed. Look, I know I messed up. I know I don't have the right to... You don't, I interrupted. But you're here, so say what you came to say. He stared at me, then sat down across from me at the kitchen table. Lisa was everything I thought I wanted. She made me feel seen, admired, important. He rubbed his eyes. But it wasn't real. It was a fantasy. We didn't build anything together, not like your mom and I did. I kept my face blank, but inside, my chest was tightening. She left when the money got tight, said I wasn't fun anymore. He chuckled bitterly, said I wasn't the man she fell for, and maybe I wasn't. Maybe I never was. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, he seemed small. What do you want from me? I asked. He hesitated. I don't know. Forgiveness? A second chance? I couldn't go to anyone else. You're all I have. His voice cracked on that last part, and I realized something. The man sitting in front of me wasn't the same man who walked out on us. That man had been arrogant, self-assured. This one was broken, worn down, but that didn't mean he deserved a clean slate. You don't get to abandon your family and then come back when things go south, I said quietly. You didn't just leave my mom. You left me. You left us. For what? For someone. Who made you feel alive? And now you want a warm bed and a shoulder to cry on? He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed to tell you I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I stood up and went to my room, closing the door behind me. That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Because the thing no one tells you about being abandoned is this. When the person comes back, it doesn't feel like closure. It feels like someone reopening a wound you've spent years trying to forget. And something told me this wasn't the end of it, not even close. Day 5. He was still there. Still quiet. Still trying. and I hated how it was starting to get easier, having him around. We'd fallen into a weird rhythm. I left early for work. He washed the dishes without asking. I kept to myself. He stayed, out of the way. But the air between us was always heavy, full of things we never said. Then one night I came home late, exhausted from work. I tossed my keys in the bowl, kicked off my shoes, and saw him sitting on the couch holding an old photo album. My photo album. "Where did you find that?" I asked sharply. "It was on the bookshelf." He looked up. "You kept everything." I grabbed it from him. He didn't resist. He just looked sad. "You were such a happy kid," he said. "Your mom always had you smiling." I didn't answer. I just walked into the kitchen and slammed the fridge shut a little harder than I needed to. Then I heard him behind me. "She was right, you know." I turned. "About what?" "About me. She always said I was restless, that I didn't know how to be content. I used to think she was just being controlling, but now I see she was trying to ground me." "You figured that out after you cheated." "On her?" I snapped. His face twisted. "It wasn't just about cheating." I raised my eyebrows. "Really? Because from where I stood, it was exactly that. You left us for someone younger, flashier, and then you ghosted. For years." He shook his head. "Lisa wasn't younger. That stopped me cold." "She wasn't? Then why?" "She was exciting," he said. "Wild. She made me feel like I could breathe again. Your mom, she was dependable, loyal. But after a while, I convinced myself that meant boring." He looked down, ashamed. "I used to lie to myself, told myself that I deserved better, that I had given enough. But Lisa, she wasn't love. She was escape. And when it stopped being easy, she bailed. Fast. I didn't know what to say to that. I thought about calling," he continued. "So many times, but I was too ashamed. I didn't want to face what I'd broken." I stared at him. "Then why now? Why come back at all?" He sighed. "Because when everything fell apart, I realized there was only one person in the world I wanted to face. Even if he slammed the door in my face." His voice cracked. "And suddenly, I saw a flicker of the man I used to believe in, the man I used to need." That night, we sat in silence for a long time. Same room, different worlds. But something had shifted. Slightly. He didn't overstep, didn't press. And for once, I didn't ask him to leave. The next morning, he was gone. No note, no duffel, no trace. I checked my phone. Nothing. I checked the porch. Empty. Just when I was about to text him, half panicked, half angry, I saw it. An envelope taped to my door. My name, in his handwriting. Inside was a letter, 3 pages long, full of things I didn't expect. He wrote about Mom, about how she was the glue and he was too blind to see it. He wrote about the night he left, how he didn't sleep for 3 days because of the look on my face. He wrote about me, about how proud he was. How sorry. How he knew 1 week could never fix what he broke. But how grateful he was I gave him that time at all. And then, at the very bottom, just before the signature, was a single sentence. "If you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, I'll be waiting, but I won't ask again. No return address." Just that. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat on the couch, the same couch he slept on, and cried for the first time in years. I didn't hear from him again. Not for weeks. I kept the letter tucked in my nightstand drawer like it was some sacred artifact, one I hated but couldn't throw away. Sometimes I'd read a line or two and shut it again before the guilt crept in. I didn't talk to my mom about it. She'd earned her peace, and I wasn't going to mess with that by dragging him back into her life. But inside me, a war was brewing. Half of me wanted to forget the whole thing. The other half missed him. That surprised me more than anything. Then, about a month later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up, but something made me do it. "Hey," the voice said. My stomach dropped. "Dad? I'm sorry to call. I didn't want to push." I stayed silent. I got a job. Nothing special. Driving a shuttle van at the airport. And I'm staying at this halfway house near downtown. It's not much, but it's a start. I swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I wanted you to know I heard you, that I'm not expecting anything, but I'm trying to be better even if no one's watching." He wasn't crying. He wasn't begging. He sounded calm, tired, but calm, and that's what made me finally say the words I didn't think I could. "Do you want to grab coffee?" The line went quiet. I thought maybe the call had dropped. Then, softly, "I'd like that." The first meeting was awkward. He was wearing an old button-down shirt and jeans that didn't quite fit. He looked smaller somehow, not just older, diminished. Like life had sanded off all the edges he once used to cut everyone around him. He didn't talk about Mom or Lisa. He asked about my job, my friends, my apartment. He didn't offer opinions, just listened, and slowly, very slowly. We started meeting every couple of weeks, not enough to pretend nothing happened, but enough to acknowledge something had. At one point, he brought up the past again cautiously. "I know I don't deserve a relationship with you," he said, staring into his coffee, "but I want one, even if it takes the rest of my life to earn." I looked at him for a long time. "I don't know what this is yet," I said honestly, "but I guess we'll find out." It's been 6 months now. We're not close, not yet, but he's showing up. He remembers my work schedule. He doesn't flinch when I bring up Mom. He even sent her a letter, not to ask for anything, just to say he's sorry. She never wrote back. I think that's fair. But me? I'm learning something strange and uncomfortable and kind of beautiful. Sometimes, people don't deserve a second chance. But sometimes, they grow into the person who does. And sometimes, that person shows up at your door. Not to be your dad again, but to ask if he can try to become someone you might not hate. For now, that's enough.